Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of the Grand Line. I am your host, DreadnautX. With me, as always, the JoJo of podcasts, Count Vampz. And a special appearance today by Lady Vampz and Kid Vampz. Tonight's episode, we check out a new Netflix original, March Came In Like a Lion. And we discuss Netflix other originals, Castlevania, and a couple other ones. Episode 4 starts right now. 'Alright, man, so how's it going today?
Yeah, it's going good. I only woke up about half an hour ago, but, that's what happens when you play video games late at night, I suppose.
Yeah, I hear ya.
But yeah, no, overall, pretty good day. I think Lady Vamp's has been up a lot later than I have. A lot longer than I have, not later.
Yeah, what, 6 o'clock? Sorry, 5 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about yourself? How are you going?
Oh, same as you, man. I usually, Friday nights when I work, and then I come home, instead of sleeping on my Fridays, I usually stay up then, and I usually go to sleep Friday nights. So I usually try, because I've been up for 30-something hours at that point, but I usually try and stay up and do some gaming, but last night it was 10:30, and I was just toast. I had to go to sleep, so.
Yeah, that's fair enough, man. That's fair enough.
It's I want to stay up and game and watch anime, but it's man, it's just you get to that point where it's and Saturday is my morning to get up with the kids, so I'm yeah. I better get to bed soon. So I ended up conking at 10:30 at night, and then the kids had me up at 7 in the morning. So
yeah, that's fair enough, man. Don't want your eyeballs falling out of your head.
Yeah, I know. Some nights some Friday nights I won't crawl into bed till 2-3 in the morning, and then they have me up at 7. It's rough.
Yeah, that's understandable, dude, yeah.
So how's your anime been going this week?
Well, I've only really watched March Came In Like a Lion, which is what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But I was reading a manga called Skeleton Couldn't Protect the Dungeon, which is quite a mouthful, but it's actually a pretty solid manga as well, so... that was really good, and that's basically all I've really done because I just couldn't stop reading Skeleton Couldn't Protect the Dungeon. So.
Is it a long one?
It's only about 60 odd chapters, which isn't super long, but it was long enough that it took about 4 days to read. So
oh yeah,
I didn't just sit down for 4 days and do nothing but read that, but just sort of over the course of 4 days.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, it's really good, and I'm happy to talk about it more. But that's pretty much what I've been doing this week. So yeah, how about yourself? What have you been up to?
Well, I'd say, man, I've been kind of trying to catch up on some Full Metal Alchemist. I watched a bit more. Castlevania, I got through the first season, which like I said, it's pretty short season to get through, but.
Yeah, it's really solid. Like season 2 is a bit longer. I think season 1 was still like the test season, like to see
Yeah,
if it
for
was-
sure. Pilot stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I guess that it's sort of weird that we're in the point where we make a pilot season rather than
Yeah, and that's really what it seemed like with only 4 episodes or whatever it was. Like,
yeah. And there was I feel like there's a lot of concepts introduced that they sort of build on a lot better in the second season.
Right.
So I think the second season is like 8 or 10 episodes or something.
yeah,
like that.
it's still not super long, but
When you put them both together, you get a 16 episode anime,
Yeah.
which is reasonable. Like,
yeah.
So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it still. So,
Yeah, so I don't know. Do you want to start talking about March Came In Like a Lion?
yeah, let's have a chat about that. So,
So let's start off with the intro. What did you think of the intro song?
I mean, I thought it did its job. I don't think it was anything super incredible.
Okay, so I've been binge watching, and the intro changes halfway through that first season,
Oh, really?
and it's amazing.
Oh, cool. I don't think I've seen the second one.
So the first song you don't like it as much, but you enjoyed the second one.
Yeah.
And how long is that season? Like,
I'm up to episode 6 or 7.
okay,
And I think it's 12 episodes total. The first.
oh, okay,
season,
gotcha,
so-
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was. I'm not sure what I was expecting, but it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Like, so especially after the first episode, that first episode is quite the hurdle. I found personally.
Yeah,
Like, my advice to the viewers is definitely at least watch the second episode, like, because the first episode is not great, honestly, sadly.
yeah. You gotta get through it to get through kind of like to the meat of the story, you know.
Yeah. So, might as well do a quick synopsis. So basically, it's an anime about shogi, particularly a shogi genius called Ray, and basically he's 17. He tends to be a bit of an introvert, and the show is really about him sort of coming out of his shell. It's not so much about him getting better at shogi because he's already really good at shogi. Yeah. So it's more about him sort of he like meets a trio of sisters and their grandfather, and they kind of try and get him to be more sociable, and he even comes around to being sort of friends with his rival, which the rival says that they're best friends. And they're rivals.
Yeah, not quite best friends.
We're not really friends. Like,
Yeah.
So it's surprisingly very, very good, and I'm not a big slice of life kind of person
Right.
normally. Like Lady Vampz likes the old slice of life animes. I generally prefer my animes to have explosions,
Fantasy and
stuff
explosions, yeah.
I watch reality TV, but give me some anime and I'm set.
Yeah, and just if you're just joining us here, everybody, we have Count Vampz as normal, and we also have Lady Vampz joining us tonight, just so everybody knows.
Yeah. So she's you've probably heard her in the background of some of my streams if you pop by. She normally says some stuff. So
I'm just like fine.
yeah, and so we thought we'd invite her on because she was the one who suggested the anime.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like all the characters in this. I think they've all got really distinct personalities, which sometimes can be an issue in some of these slice of life animes. I've found personally, it's particularly the three sisters. A lot of times they give them very similar personalities, but they're all pretty different.
I found because of how it's based on a manga.
Mm.
The characters are really good, and yeah, I like the sisters. And it's interesting that the 4 of them are all technically orphans. They've all lost their parents.
Yeah, Ray and the three sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah, they start getting into that there at the end of the third episode, kind of sharing their backstories and.
Yeah, definitely. Loss and loneliness is definitely a theme of the anime, which is very interesting. I think they pull it off really well, though. I don't think it, because I find with a lot of that, when you have sort of tragic backstories with a lot of characters, sometimes the show ends up really depressing.
Mm-hmm.
But they actually pull it off really well. They pull off the sort of like goofiness of sort of general anime, as well as having these moments of very big sort of sadness kind of moments.
Yeah. Thank God for those girls, because if it wasn't for those girls, I thought we would definitely have that type of like lonelier show, because they definitely helped breathe some life into Ray and that show.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I also think his rival, especially in the later episodes, certainly brings in a lot of humor because he's so sort of boisterous.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it's at the end of episode 3 or not, but eventually the sisters meet him and they all like him because he's just this big kind of boisterous guy.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun. And yeah, one of them's like, well, they have like a Totoro knockoff. I can't. What's it? Yeah, that's it, Kotaro. And she's like, "Oh my god, it's Kotaro!" Like the little girl Momo. Yeah. And he's just like, "Ah, yes, I am Kotaro. Let's go for let's walk down the street and stuff like that." So he sort of just embraces it.
Yeah.
I think he sort of adds a lot of lightheartedness into the anime, which is good.
Is that the guy that's having the heart attack while he's playing?
Yeah, that dude. Yeah,
okay.
the big guy.
Yeah,
he's overweight. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he sure seems to have a hard time while he's playing. Like he's about to like pass out.
Yeah, I think he's so like desperate to beat Ray. He's just like sweats.
Yeah, he gets pretty intense.
Yeah. The good thing is that they also do cover sort of the basics of shogi, which is quite nice in the anime. So I don't think you don't need a working knowledge of it either, which is good. I mean, I sort of know how to play it a bit, but I don't know many of the strategies.
Yeah, see, I came in with no knowledge of it, and it took a bit to get used to, because I mean, at the beginning they don't tell you anything about it. They just kind of tell you he plays, and you're seeing like these numbers, and it's kind of reminding you of chess. But at the beginning, it was kind of hard to get a grasp of.
Yeah, it is similar to chess, but it's almost not similar enough. So if you know how to play chess, you don't know how to play shogi.
Right.
I think there's like three pieces four. There's basically 4 pieces no 5. Sorry, I forgot the king. There's like 5 pieces in common. You have pawns, which I think I've called something different though.
Right.
You have the bishop, but you only have 1 bishop in shogi, and it moves the same way. You have 1 rook in shogi, and then you have the knight, and is it only 4 now? I said the king, the pawn, the bishop, the rook, and the knight. No, okay, so I've got the king. I forgot to mention the king. But yeah, so they're the only pieces that shogi has in common, and then you've got like the silver general, the gold general, the lance, and I feel like there's another piece that I'm forgetting. And then when they get to the other end of the board, they promote and they become more powerful. So sort of like chess. But the thing that also is not like chess is when you capture someone else's piece, you can then place that back on your side of the board.
Ah, gotcha.
And when I say, on your side of the board is not correct, because you can literally place it anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, shogi has a really heavy amount of sort of thinking about 3 or 4 steps ahead of everything.
Like a chess, yeah.
Yeah, and when you lose a piece in shogi, it's way more devastating, because it's like, well, now they have that piece if they want it. And they
that's quite a change, like.
Yeah, the reason I got into shogi was because I was playing on the Yakuza games, and the Yakuza games AI is insane. Like, they are so brutally harsh. It's very much a no, you better get good at Shoji or else you'll lose
Yeah.
so much.
So were you practicing out of the game?
Yeah, I actually got a mobile app because the game's AI is so hard, I just couldn't get any further into
Yeah.
it. Like, and on my app, I think it's got like 99 levels of AI, and I was playing about level 20 and winning, and I was still losing in Yakuza. So, and I was playing on the easy AI too, and it was just like flaming me. I'm like, oh my god. So yeah, that was definitely an interesting introduction into Shoji.
Yeah.
I will admit, I thought about throwing my PlayStation out the window several times. But yeah, so yeah, it's an interesting game, and I think the anime captures it pretty well. So
Yeah, as the episodes go on, I found they were spending a little bit more time kind of explaining a few more things and the tournaments and the way the tournaments work. And
yeah, Shoji's got some interesting tournaments. I was just actually looking them up the other day. They've got about 3 different varieties, and you got to meet a lot of qualifications to get into them as well.
Right.
So
That's what it goes into further in.
oh, there you
He's in. So he's a pro in class 3C.
go. Yeah.
And you've got to win 9 matches to move on to 2B.
Yeah.
He lost 3 matches in a row.
Oh, jeez. So yeah, that's not good. Yeah, and then there's like different categories as well. Like there's one that's really prestigious, but you can only get in there basically you're almost nobility in Japan.
right.
From what I understand.
Yeah, so
I thought I'd lost you there for a couple minutes, dude.
what's that?
I thought I'd lost you there for a couple minutes.
No.
I was like, I paused and I was like, wait, did the stream just go out?
Well, Lady Vampz was talking, so I was just trying to turn up the volume so the microphone would pick her up a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really quiet, sorry.
That's okay. I'm quiet half the time too, so it's all good. That's why we just count on Count Vampz to carry the bulk of the podcast for me.
It's because I never shut up, really. That's
Yeah, so I don't know, like I was pretty good. Like it was just kind of reminding me of High Score Girl, where you know it's like you guys could call it the slice of life. Like it's kind of modern or reality type based, other than fantasy. And yeah, it's like I couldn't get into High School Girl first, but once they had that connection between the two main characters, it kind of like sold me on the show. And then by the end of episode 3, you know, I kind of felt something once she left. And it was the same thing here. Once you finally see that connection from Ray, and he's kind of coming out of his shell a bit and embracing the 3 sisters and kind of going into them a bit more and wanting to go over there a bit more, you kind of see that connection. And it kind of took me to that point to really catch on to the show and want to watch more.
Yeah, exactly, and I agree, and you know I think that's why I have the 3 episode rule, is because you just never know what's going to happen over the course of the other 2 episodes of the season. Because if we just watch 1 episode, there's no way in hell I would have got past it.
Right.
Like episode 1, I mean, sorry, like because episode 1 was just such a drag, and they didn't really explain a lot of what was going on either. So
especially these type of shows, like
yeah. A funny story, when we first watched it, Lady Vampz thought that he'd killed his parents in an accident or something like that, so he was on the run.
That was the impression that first episode gave.
Exactly, and I agreed with you. I was like, yeah, I think he might have. But
why is that?
Oh, it just seemed like, you know, he's sort of, like, because he's sitting in front of the TV, and it said about how it had that news report about how the son bashed his father's head in.
And you thought it was him?
And he was like, it was like he was having Vietnam flashback. Like,
right.
While
Yeah,
he's
it
sitting
went
there.
into the, it's so fresh in my mind. And like,
But it turned out he was just, like, kind of, yeah, so.
they go into, like, kind of what happened
Yeah.
in episode 5. When I got you up, I
Yeah.
just watched it.
Oh, yeah.
And was like, oh shit, I don't think I could cope with that.
Fair enough.
And to see him cry.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
at the end of episode 3, he breaks down there on the bridge and, kind of has a moment where he kind of remembers and what happens and starts breaking down, and it's when he kind of connects and wants to go back to the sisters and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think if you're into slice of life animes, definitely check this one out. I reckon it's a good one. Yeah, like I think that's it. I give it a recommendation. I certainly.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep watching it.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I'll probably continue on as well. It's not at the forefront of my animes, but I will keep it. I will keep it on my list and probably finish off. Is there just one season of that, or?
There's 2 at the moment.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, they're both 12 episodes. I'm pretty sure. So.
I'll definitely probably finish off the season then.
Yeah, I definitely think that I don't think it's going to be the anime that turns someone's opinion around on slice of life animes,
Right.
but I think it's pretty good. Like,
Yeah. Hey, maybe once the intro song gets better, it'll hook me more.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
It's actually 44 episodes.
Oh, it's 44 episodes. Oh, jeez.
Shit.
I'll watch season 1 and this is how I feel.
Yeah.
Alright, cool. So, if we've got time, I'd actually like to talk about Skeleton Couldn't Protect the Dungeon.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you to tell me what that was about.
So I was going through my manga app as I do, and I was just kind of looking for something because I just got a new phone, so all my saved mangas had disappeared.
Oh, okay.
So I was looking through and I saw this Skeleton Couldn't Protect the Dungeon, and I read it, and the synopsis is completely wrong. By the way, it's not. It's sort of similar, but not really. So I started reading it, and I'm reading through it, and so basically the storyline is that the main character is this skeleton. He doesn't have a name. He's just called Skeleton.
Yeah.
And so what happens is his mistress is just being slain. Mistress Succubus is her name. And so as he watches her die, some guy caves his head in with a hammer, and
Right.
he wakes up when he first got created, which happens to be 20 years in the past. So he basically got reincarnated when he first got created. But the cool thing is that they kind of show off, like, I don't think it's meant to be like Sword Art Online, but he's got the ability to look at RPG menus like he's in Sword Art Online. But no one else has that ability. So
Right.
he can see his level, and he's back at level 1, but he has the stats of a level 33 skeleton.
Right.
So, he remembers that his original master, who raised him from the dead, gets killed by someone. And so he tries to stop it, and he manages to sort of overcome it, but he still gets defeated. But then he wakes up in the same location again. And this time the guy with the great hammer, like, bashed his head in, and so he gains resistance to bashing damage.
Right.
And then he tries again, and it takes like 4 times for him to finally be able to successfully do it, but he manages to overcome. And each time he dies, he keeps his stat gains from the previous levels, basically. So every time he dies, he learns something new, and he gains new abilities based on what happened to him.
That's pretty cool.
So,
It's almost like he's living a roguelike type world.
Yeah, pretty much that's kind of it. And, during the course of the manga, sometimes he'll have, like, he won't die for a fair chunk of time, and then he'll die and he'll go back to another point in, like, kind of like almost like a save point.
Right.
Like, he'll go back to a previous point in his existence,
Yep.
but he'll keep all his stat gains and all his skills and stuff like that. And
Keeps his all his experiences and his knowledge.
yeah, and I don't want to go too deep into exactly what happens, but he gains some pretty cool abilities over the course of his lifetime. So his overall goal is to protect his to get strong enough to protect Mistress Succubus, basically,
Right.
who's 20 years in the future from him. But he also meets other people who he wants to try and protect. And it's wow. I was so like, you just want to know where it goes next. And it's funny because he never gets a name. He's just Skeleton, like, you know. But I was like reading it, and I'm like, this would make a fantastic game. Like,
yeah,
like,
it definitely seems like it's pulling stuff from, you know, like roguelike Dead Cells type of games, or, you know.
yeah. And yeah, it was just a solid read. And considering I picked it up on a whim, is like really crazy just how well it was done. And I think it's actually a fan project as well. It's a Korean one. I'm not sure what to call Korean manga, but I'm just going to call it Korean manga for sake of ease at this point. So it's interesting because every page is just a single picture in the sort of thing. So it's a bit different from what I'm normally used to, where it's multiple panels.
So it's like strips or panels, yeah.
Yeah, per page. So there's 66 chapters. Sadly, and I do want to preface anyone getting into it. He's not sure if he's going to do any more. He's going to try, but basically life has happened, and he's going to attempt to do it, but he's not 100% sure. So
Right.
I still think it's worth a read, because the first season, as he calls it, is really good. And I think it's definitely worthwhile to read it. But if you're someone who's like, I need to have closure, you might want to think about it before you get straight into it. I still personally think it's worth a read because of sort of the ideas in it. Like,
Right.
I think it's got some really cool ideas. And, you know, if someone made a game sort of based around it, I'd play the shit out of it. Like,
Now, is this Skeleton couldn't protect the dungeon, or Skeleton Soldier?
no, Skeleton couldn't protect the dungeon is definitely... I mean, I don't think that's its actual name, but that's what it's kind of known as.
Okay. Is there another one called Skeleton Soldier couldn't protect the dungeon?
Oh, it could be that. Skeleton Soldier couldn't protect the dungeon. That's actually it, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Skeleton Soldier couldn't protect the dungeon, my bad.
I was just looking up pictures, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is... I was just assuming it was the same one anyways, but...
Yeah, no, there's definitely... That's definitely it.
Yeah.
Skeleton Soldier couldn't protect the dungeon.
Cool.
So, yeah, and, you know, as he kind of goes along, he gets more equipment and stuff like that. The big thing is that most of the time he's in armor because he's an intelligent skeleton that can actually kind of move around the world.
Right.
And kind of disguise himself, so people don't just, like, try and jump him immediately.
Right.
So it's pretty cool. I think my favorite part was definitely the part where they have the tournament and he enters in, and the idea is that he's not meant to sort of attract attention to himself. But by that point, he's so badass, he accidentally does it anyway.
Now, who else in the tournament? Is that like it's all dead people, or just normal people, or what? Like, doesn't he stand out?
It's just so it's like a kind of like a knights tournament. So the idea is that they're all trying to win prestige, and he gets hired by a noble family that basically got there because they were merchants, like, so they bought their way in.
Right.
So they don't have any knights. So they hire this guild that he's sort of a part of, but not really, to have a knight join there, and they're like, you go and do it. So he goes and does it. So, and they're all sort of like knights, but they don't find out he's a... Well, you know what, I was going to say they don't find out he's a skeleton, but I won't spoil anything in that arc. It's really good, though, so... Yeah,
because he shows up wearing armor anyways, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and it's like a full suit of, like, full plate, so you can't tell he's a skelly.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, yeah, a lot of the characters are really interesting. There's a lot of secret societies and guilds that kind of, like, have certain things, and of course, because he's 20 years from the future, he knows a lot of what's going to happen. So.
Oh, so he's like time traveling, yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, this happens in the future, and I'm going to try and avoid that area or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, it's really good, and it's like if you sat down and read it, I reckon it only take a couple days. Like if you just sort of like powered through it.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. Like I like the premise of like a time traveling and keeping his abilities and his knowledge and just kind of trying to redo things until he gets things right and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a. Like, I mean, I've sort of seen it before, but I haven't seen it put together in that particular fashion.
Right.
So I guess that's the thing, is that it doesn't really do anything new, but it
does it good
in a new fashion.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it doesn't do it new, but it does it in a kind of like a different way and like a good take on it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's always good.
It's kind of like an anime gothic version of Groundhog Day.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Dark Souls, actually.
Right.
The whole dying continually until you sort of get it right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so obviously there's no chance we're gonna get any kind of anime anytime soon if this guy's not even sure about continuing the series, right?
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen. We might get a fan animation, maybe.
Right.
But I don't think. Yeah. For one thing, it definitely looks like it's. Well, I mean, it's drawn very professionally, but it certainly feels more like a fan project rather than an actual.
Yeah.
Sort of like I can't remember what they call it. I think they call it doujin, if I remember correctly. Is kind of like a sort of freelance made manga in Japan. So a manga is published by a company, so like Shonen Jump or whatever. While a doujin is generally kind of like a local sort of
indie type thing.
Yeah, like some guy assembled it in his basement,
right?
Or went down to the local store and kind of printed the pages out and assembled it. Yeah. So I think it's close to a doujin rather than an actual manga.
Right.
It's still really impressively drawn. Like the colors, the way the characters sort of look and move. Well, you know what I mean by move, but like it's not drawn weirdly, I guess. At the point.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's not. It doesn't if you look at a webcomic, you can kind of tell that it's sort of a webcomic, if you get what I mean.
Right.
And this is a lot harder to tell that it's a webcomic, basically.
That's cool. Well, at least it has that kind of bit of a level of polish that it still makes it, like really good to look at. Like.
Yeah, exactly. The artist is really good, which I can't remember who did the art for it. I sort of just kind of stumbled across and I was like, holy crap, this is really good.
So do they have a big selection on there of like more freelance type stuff? Yeah,
I'd say it's not very difficult to find freelance stuff on Manga Rock. It's all pretty just like kind of smashed together. Like it'd be difficult to sort of separate the two out, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I guess all the viewers out there and the listeners should say hi to Kid Vampz as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, do you know what today is? Do you know what day today is on the calendar?
Well, it's the 23rd here. I'm not. Would it be the 22nd for you guys?
That's correct. But do you know what special event takes place today?
No, I have a terrible memory, so that helps.
Okay, well, if you go on Twitter, today's the 15th anniversary of JoJo's.
Oh, awesome! No, I missed that. That's awesome.
Now, don't get your hopes up. It's not JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Really?
It's the singer JoJo. So I was on Twitter earlier and I was looking at the hashtags and trending over on the corner, and it's like, oh, JoJo's is trending. I'm like, oh, cool. How often do you see JoJo's Bizarre Adventure trending on Twitter? And so I went to click on the hashtag, and it shows you like all the people who mentioned that hashtag, right?
Yeah.
And I'm scrolling down through the posts, the whole, there's like thousands and thousands of posts. And like every 10th one, maybe every 20th one, is about the singer JoJo. I guess it's 15 years since her debut album.
Yeah.
Whoever JoJo is, anyways, I'm sure she just came up with like a pop song 15 years ago, whatever. One hit wonder, I don't know.
Yeah.
So every 20th post is about her, and the other 19 are all about, I guess this trend is not about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and it's just everybody posting memes and like clips of like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on this page.
Yeah,
so there's like
awesome.
There's like next to no posts about this singer, but it's all just like people saying, "Oh, I thought this was JoJo's Bizarre Adventure anniversary. Shoot, that sucks." That was funny.
Yeah, man, like that's it. It's all about JoJo. Like,
yeah, it was just pretty funny seeing that. It was like completely taken over by all these people who love JoJo's.
Sorry, I just saw it on the Twitter. Yeah, holy crap.
Yeah, it's just it's
that is
good.
funny. Well, like, I mean, when you consider it, she's got what 800,000 followers according to this.
Yeah.
Well, we'll say that's close enough.
Yeah.
And JoJo's has probably got millions upon millions.
Sure enough.
So it's like, yeah, no, it's JoJo's, anniversary.
She's got one good song. He's got 8 good albums. 8 good
she
seasons.
should just lean into it and just start doing like Joseph Joestar poses.
Yeah, yeah. And her next album should be like, her doing a throwback to him.
Yeah, she should do the English versions of the JoJo openings.
Yes.
There's a guy. I can't remember his name now. He's a YouTube heavy metal guy, and he actually did all the openings in English. And they're actually really accurate. The Stardust Crusaders one is really good.
I know, I gotta get to that one. I'm tired of everybody saying how good it is, and I gotta making my way to it.
It's worth it. Like,
I know.
1 and 2 is still really good. Jonathan Young, that's who it is.
Okay. So his first name's even Jonathan. Too bad his last name wasn't start with a J-O as well. So he's Joyo.
Yeah. Yeah, Joyo. Yeah. Which, if it sounds like some type of Joestar brand yogurt. Joyo.
Sounds like a yogurt.
It comes with Aura flavor, which punches your taste buds clean out,
Yeah.
And you can even have Dio blood flavored yogurt, But yeah, no, that's actually pretty funny. It's a shame for that singer. Because oh my god, everyone's celebrating my anniversary, and then there's just like a bunch of JoJo memes everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's like everybody came there looking to see to celebrate JoJo's, and then when they noticed it was just the singer, they got all disappointed.
It's kind of like it's like that episode of The Simpsons where he brings like Michael Jackson home, and it turns out it's not Michael Jackson at all. Like,
yeah,
it kind of feels like that. It's just like Michael Jackson steps out, and it's just like this big bald white guy, and they're all just like, "Oh man, I'm just going home."
Well, didn't he have the same voice though?
Yeah, he did. It is actually voiced by Michael Jackson.
Right, but it was just pretending to be somebody else.
Yeah. I think his real name is Leo or something like that. Leo Rakowski or something. I think it is. It's kind of like that. JoJo just steps out and she's just like, "Oh my god!" And everyone's like, "Oh, you're not JoJo."
Yeah.
Walk off. Oh well, that's why I think she should just lean into it, gain some extra popularity.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of up her follower count a bit.
Yeah.
So is that it? Is that it for your animes for this week? You haven't watched anything else?
Not really. I definitely am going to finish watching Stardust Crusaders.
Yeah.
I do want to watch the rest of Baki, but I've currently taken that off the currently watching.
Right.
I haven't watched it in like 2 weeks. But I do want to actually get in back to watching it.
Right.
And High Score Girl is definitely going to be something. I reckon I'm going to show it to Lady Vampz, because then I'll definitely end up watching it, because she'll have it on all the time. So.
Yeah, she'd probably like it. I mean, if she likes this March Like a Lion, I guess. Same type of,
I reckon she'd definitely like the High Score Girl herself, because she kind of reminds me of the High Score Girl.
Yeah. Why? Because she's always kicking your ass in video games?
It was that first scene where the main character is being super cheap to her in Street Fighter, and she walks around and just slaps him in the face.
Yeah.
I was doing cheap shit. So.
Like the time that you weren't paying attention and I flawless you in Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah, that was certainly that's the first time that someone's like legitimately done that too. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was certainly interesting. I was like, oh, okay, fair enough.
So has she watched anything else, or has it just been the March Came In Like a Lion for her as well?
Yeah, no, pretty much just March came in like Lion.
Well, there is a show that sort of skirts the line, because it's based on a manga. It's called Samurai Gourmet. It's actually a live-action show.
Right.
It's basically, this guy has worked at a company for 60 years, and he's just been retired. Like, he's just retired.
Right.
And so he decides that he's going to go on a culinary journey with the help of a samurai. And, like, so the samurai is kind of like a mental image he has, and it shows up, and it lets him kind of be brave and try new things. So, for example, he goes into a diner and he orders food, and he's like, man, and he notices an ad on the wall for a beer, and he's like, man, I'd really like a beer. And he's like, but it's during the day, I shouldn't do it. And he's like, wait, I'm retired. And he's like, oh, people might still think it's bad. And then, so suddenly the samurai opens the door and everything like swaps to Edo, Japan, but he's still sitting in the corner, watching the samurai come in, and the samurai orders food and orders sake. And then the scene plays out, and then by the end of the scene, the guy's like, no, I'll have a beer, thank you. Like, it is actually, I didn't realize that either, but it is actually based on a manga. So, it's a really cool show, and, if food porn, that's definitely the show for you as well.
And where do you watch that on?
It's on Netflix.
All right, cool.
Yeah, so
in Japanese only.
Yes, it is in Japanese only. So you will need
subtitles.
To read those Yep.
Okay, cool.
You'll need to read those old subtitles, but I think it's worth it. So the only downside to subtitle shows is you've kind of got to pay full attention to them.
Yeah.
You can't be like, doing your taxes and watching it. That doesn't work.
Yeah. I've been, when I've been watching Dororo anyways, I've been watching it dubbed, or subbed, so.
Yeah. I think it only comes in subbed, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
I imagine
maybe that's why. That's the only reason I'm watching it like that.
Yeah. I can't remember what I was watching the other day, but the dub started, and I'm like, oh.
Sorry, if you're watching stuff on Netflix, that's my default.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I actually don't mind some of the dubs. I thought the JoJo dub was actually pretty good, honestly.
Depends, right?
Recognized, yeah. I recognized a lot of recognizable voices. I swear the guy who voices Goku does one of the characters. Like,
yeah.
I'm curious about how the Evangelion.
Yeah. A lot of people are trashing that on Netflix because the dub is so bad. So
I'm gonna have to watch it because I've got the originals on DVD.
Yeah, we'll have to compare. I mean, there's no excuse now. I give Evangelion's dub a pass back in the day because it was the 90s.
Right.
So they didn't really give a shit at that point on the English dub quality.
Yeah.
So
they just put it out there for people to check it out, but their main priority was the original version, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's no excuse now if you can't do a good dub, especially because they redubbed it. Like, if they just released the original dub, I would be like, okay, well, what can you do? But, like, when you redub something and you make a big deal about it, because that's what I saw being the biggest deal about this Evangelion, was it redubbed, resubbed, So when you make a big deal about it, it better be goddamn good. Like,
Yeah, and people are just saying the translation was too literal. Like it's that's all. Yeah,
yeah. That's a problem that you will find in some dubs. Is that at the end of the day, you've got to localize. Like as much as some people don't like the idea of localizing, you can't just brute force translate it, because something that makes sense in Japan doesn't make sense here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so localization is a necessary evil. I know that some people don't like it, but it makes it a lot more understandable. Like,
right.
Like the reason I watch it in Japanese is because I like to get the most authentic. I think, the most kind of authentic experience out of it. But when you translate something, you can't just brute force translate it. It doesn't. So I mean, I'm interested to see how it goes. Anyway, hopefully, hopefully the sub's good. I mean, I did see a few people saying that a couple of people online are saying that they weren't looking forward to it because it's got a bit of a reputation in some of the anime communities that it's sort of like it's over mainstream, I guess. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people think that people hold it up a lot higher than it should be, I think, is some of the people's sort of criticisms of it.
Right.
Which, I mean, I think it's good, but I have met several people who think it's like just the be-all and end-all of anime, and I'm not sure if I agree with that. Like,
yeah, I do hear it referenced quite often. Like it's definitely up there when I hear people talk about like their top 10 animes. I always hear that name pop up all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it. It's I don't think it'd be in my top 10 anime list personally, but I do think it's really good. It is a shame he ran out of money on the last couple of episodes, so I'm hoping that this re-release might sort of fix that a little bit.
Right.
From my understanding, it's original footage.
Okay.
The reason it doesn't have its original dub and sub is that they are owned by a company.
Yeah.
Oh, so they had to redo it.
Right, footage,
But not the dub.
not the voice acting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so, because the last couple of episodes, in my personal opinion, it just goes clean off the rails.
But that's what the 3 movies were meant to fix.
Yeah, that's what the 3 movies were meant to fix.
Hi.
It's all good.
Cool, I
might
have to check that out then. I've never checked out that show before, so I might have to give it a check.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely worth a watch. I'm not gonna... I think it's good. I don't think it's, as I said, the be-all, end-all of anime, but I think it's worth watching. It's
worth checking out, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the reason why a lot of people hold it in massively high regard is it's the first anime they ever watched, like, full stop. Like,
oh, yeah?
I know several people who it's their introduction in, so...
Mm-hmm.
For me, though, I just think that I've seen better anime since then. I think it's a good anime to kind of average anime out on, if you get what I mean. So, is it as good as Neon Genesis? Well, then, awesome. If it's worse, well, that's not good. So,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just kind of like an average.
Yeah, I think it's a good baseline.
Yeah.
Like, it has a lot of good themes. It has a reasonably strong story, except for the last couple of episodes. But from what I understand, the reason the last couple of episodes are so weird is because they ran out of money, basically. Like, so they just had to kind of cobble together an ending that sort of made somewhat sense, which it didn't, but they had to do it anyway. But I hear the movies did fix that, but I just haven't gotten around to watching them yet. So.
Okay, cool. Maybe give that a check out this weekend just to see what it's like.
Yeah, I think it's worth the old 3-episode watch.
Well, speaking of the 3-episode watch, the one I have picked out for this week is Sirius the Jaeger.
Oh, that sounds good.
It's on Netflix. There's 12 episodes, 1 season. It's a Netflix original. It's about it's a group in Imperial Tokyo calling themselves the Jaegers, and they secretly hunt vampires, and among them is a young werewolf. So.
That's pretty cool. That sounds pretty cool.
Sounds like it's right up your alley. So
yeah, definitely. I'm all about the undead stuff. So
and the action in there and the animation and the action remind me of like the Castlevania, like really nice, crisp combat, and so
yeah. So no, that looks good. I'm looking. So sorry, just a bit of a stretch there. Yeah, no, sounds good. Looks good. Looks like my kind of anime. So,
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, and I'll have to figure out something for next week.
Yeah, we'll go back and forth, and next week you can think of something, and we'll. Or if there's some weeks where you can't think of anything, if Lady Vampz is watching something, we can, have her on to check out what she's watching, and vice versa.
She watches some really interesting stuff as well, like stuff that I definitely never watched personally. So.
And that's cool. It's really cool, like having somebody else's, point of view to like show you something that you're not used to watching, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean that's the thing. And there's a lot of good anime that she showed me. One of the ones that I can think of off the top of my head is Oran High Host Club, which I definitely never would have watched ever.
Right.
But it's actually a very interesting show. Basically, it's about a sort of like an after school club,
right? But
they're all like hosts, like so they all sort of like they have the girls come in and they sit down there, like have a meal with them and chat. So kind of like a host club in Japan, if you know much about them. Which is a really interesting job when I think about it. Actually, in March Came Like Sister is a hostess, so it's kind of like that, but the hosts are all guys.
Oh, like that type of host, gotcha.
Yeah. So I never would have watched it, but it's actually a pretty funny show. Like when it's almost like an anime sitcom, honestly.
Oh,
okay. For lack of a better description, it's not quite that, but it's kind of close. So
it's got that type of vibe, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much it for what I have, man. Unless you got something else.
I think that's it for me. So.
It's been a light week for me. Like I said, all I've been doing is catching up on One Piece. So,
yeah, and it's been overall a pretty light week for me as well. Yeah. So, nothing major for this one. So,
cool. Well,
but I'll definitely come back with some new stuff this week. So,
yeah, sounds good, man. We'll check out Sirius the Jaeger, and we'll continue on whatever else we're watching, and we'll check back in next week.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, man. Well, let's get out of here.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, everyone out there, you have a good one, and we'll catch you next week.
Yep. See you guys later.
See yous.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find the show on all your favorite podcast apps. Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and Spotify. Just search The Grand Line. If you want to send us a comment, correction, or a question, feel free, or suggest an anime for us to check out. Email us at grandlinecast@hotmail.com. You can also check out the show over at grandlinecast on Twitter. And you can follow Vampz and myself on Twitter and Twitch. And all our links are in the podcast description below. Have a good night, everybody.